Hi everyone. So let's continue with our Angular series. So in this I will tell you about components and modules. So what is a component? In previous videos I also mentioned there that the component is the basic building block of Angular applications. So whenever you will open your .ts file, you will see that there you are writing some logic, some which contains some data. This is your class, that dot typescript file. So component basically has these things: one .ts file, that is your class; your html file, which is your template which defines the view; .css or scss or less file, that is your styles file which defines how your component will look like; and one metadata. Metadata is not any file, but it is some information which you will add in your class, in your typescript file, using decorators to provide configuration and information about that particular component. So that component is responsible for controlling your UI, how your UI is looking, how it is working, and everything. So there are something called communications between components, intercomponents, intra-component. Intra-component means from HTML to class or from class to HTML. So those all communications are done using bindings. So bindings is important, which I will cover in next videos. So this is your component. So small example of dot typescript file, because HTML CSS is easy, you know. So in TypeScript file, this at the rate component is your metadata. So inside that we have selector, which is your custom HTML tag, unique name. It is name of your selector, which is basically you will use in your HTML pages to describe that component, to render that component. Then you have template. This template has your HTML code, the information which you want to display on the web application. Then you have styles. Now here you can see that I have template and styles, and here I have embedded inside this TypeScript file only. But what if I create different files like different HTML and CSS? Then I want to tell my component in this metadata that it has that files also. So I can use template URL instead of template, and style URL similarly. Okay. So here instead of giving your HTML inside tilde, we can give the path. Okay. Just like we have given the selector name. So this was your component. Now how will you create and generate a component? So to generate a component, we have command. So you can use ng generate component, this command, and this command can also be rewritten as ng-gc and then your component name. Basically, G is shorthanded for this generate, and C similarly for component. Now we have modules. Now what modules are? Basically, I have created two components. Okay, and these components I think is similar. So I will create a module, basically a container you can assume, and here inside that I will have my components or directives or pipes and services, which I think they can be similar, they can be grouped. So this helps to organize an Angular application. So we declare components in a module. Okay, so I said that is a container and it has several components inside it, right? So how will we do that? Can only creating a component can run the application? No. Simple answer is no. You have to, if the versions is below 14, you have to give that components to modules. So how will you do that? For that you have to declare components in a module. So we have a different module file. Inside that, we use ng module decorator, and that ng module decorator, if you can see, has declarations, imports, providers, bootstrap, and exports array also. So what happens if you don't declare component in a module? Then Angular throws an error that this component is not part of any ng module, or this module has not been imported. So it says that I don't know, I can't recognize this component, so I can't function it, I can't compile it. So you need to first tell me where is this component. So for that we uses ng module. Okay, in that case module came in action. So modules tell, when we use ng module, they tell Angular framework that you have to register this component with yourself, you have to compile the metadata of this component, and you have to make ensure that whenever I call this component to render you, it should be always available. Okay, so this is the prime important basically functionalities of ng module decorator of modules. Now, in Angular 14 plus versions, we have eliminated the use of ng module decorator. We have standalone applications. That standalone applications can themselves only register, compile, and make sure the availability. But before that, no standalone was there, so we have that ng module, and we had to always declare. So what happens when we declare? Then Angular knows that what component is there. When we mention that, okay, in imports, not here in this imports array, I mean when you declare, so it imports here. Okay, so when it is imported here, then Angular knows that this is one component, and this comes from here because we have given the location. Then we have an exports array also here. When we use that array, we mention the component name in that array. Then our Angular knows that it is reusable and can be used anywhere in our application. Okay. So in declarations, we basically declare components, directives, pipes. Imports, in imports, we use other modules like common module, browser module, and there are many modules. So common module is something which is like basic, which have your directives like ngif, ng4, and your ng class. So these important directives are in common module. Okay, now in providers, we provide services, and we bootstrap the root component always. So here in bootstrap we have app component, we only bootstrap our root, our main component. Okay, so every Angular application has at least one module. Okay, this one module is your root module, and I'm talking about this app module. Okay, and for this module also, we have one concept of lazy loading. Okay, so we have one lazy loading concept. Okay, so this lazy loading is basically the concept that whenever it is required, okay, whenever it is not, like whenever you start the app, this module will not be there, it will only be there when it is required. So lazy loading is basically the process, or we can say it is the on required functionality. Okay, that it lazy loads, it only loads when it is required. Okay, so for this we uses load children in routes configuration, and use dot router module dot for child. Okay, so this lazy loading is itself is a big topic which involves loading of applications only when it is required. Okay, so I hope everything is cleared. So let's meet in another video. Thank you.